and welcome to our webinar. Really appreciate everyone coming and joining the conversation today. Our
Awesome.
topic for today's webinar is the future of work in hiring and staffing industry. My name is Eddie Diaz, Senior Director of Sales at Jombone, and I'm very happy to be your moderator for today's insightful discussion. Our special guest today and subject matter expert is our very own Sumit Sahdev. He's the owner and CEO of Jombone. He will share his expertise and vision, helping us navigate the dynamic and ever changing recruitment landscape. Welcome, Summit.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, Eddie. And I would say, I hate when you say you are the owner of Jombone.
Oh, okay.
Just kidding.
I'll keep that one out for the next time.
Yeah, not a problem.
So, again, thanks for joining us today. Just so we can jump right into it. As we all know, the world is changing at a very fast pace, and these changes are also affecting the landscape of work and talent acquisition. As technology continues to advance, businesses face challenges and new opportunities when it comes to attracting, hiring, and retaining top talent. So, in this session, there is a few questions that we want to address, and I'm going to give you a brief on that. Number one is, why has the staffing industry been resistant to the digital transformation? Number two is a recap of the traditional methods that have been used in the staffing industry. Um, what is the future of work? That will be the next question to address. And what are the recent market factors that are shaping the future of hiring and workforce management? The last question that we want to address is, what is the role of technology in the current and future state of the staffing industry? So, Summit, can you please share your thoughts when it comes to the staffing industry and why they have resisted this digital transformation over the years?
I think, Eddie, so, you started with the first question that the staffing industries, it has resisted, change for a very long period of time. And so it has happened for several different reasons.
Right.
I think every time a hiring in a staffing industry has been looked at, it has been looked at from in a very siloed, fragmented perspective. So people have looked at it from the recruitment perspective, which is workforce acquisition, and some, or others may not have looked at it from pure play workforce management perspective, and others also have not looked at it from pure play, how do you bring like automation and transformation for optimization of processes, payroll, and payments. So I think the reason that the staffing industry has resisted change is because it has been looked at in a siloed manner, and all three components of the human capital management that we talk about these days: workforce acquisition, workforce management, and workforce optimization. What it does, it has created silos of information. And because it is a very complex process to not just recruit person, but to follow the recruitment process, hire and manage, and timesheets and payroll and payments and all of that, I think because there's so much complexity to it, is the main reason that this industry has seen or has resisted to digital transformation, because there's no one solution that can connect all the three components of human capital management together. And so which is one of the reasons that this industry has resisted change. And now, after COVID-19, where the COVID induced digital transformation or related acceptance by companies, now companies have decided, or decided to kind of accept that how these components are going to connect. And I think that's where it's going to shape the future of work,
Mhm.
because the future of work is not just related to how businesses hire people, it is also related to how workers get hired.
Mhm.
What are the technologies or what are the methods that they would like themselves to be engaged with? And that is kind of the workforce perspective. And on the other side is a business perspective. Okay, yes, we are looking for convenience, and that convenience comes at a cost, which is the very high markup fees that are paid to staffing firms. But then, how can I still get the convenience, and also the cost advantage by using technology. So these are the two perspective. And then in addition to that, there's one very important perspective which is also going to change the future of work is what is the regulator's perspective on this? Because in this hiring and staffing industry, we are talking about people who are on payroll. In US they call it W2, in Canada they call T4 employees. So how do regulators regulate industry from a employment law or a labor standpoint? So that is another dimension which has resisted change. But as far as the future of work is concerned, this is also going to be an important factor for everybody to think about, like what are those factors. Because over the last several years I have seen and researched that many businesses or many solution providers tried to make these temporary workers or industrial workers as gig workers,
Mhm.
whereas there is a workforce classification issue that comes out of that. So I think the regulatory perspective, along with the business perspective of convenience and cost, and along with the new modern day workforce which relies very much on mobility, all these perspectives are going to or should come together
Right.
for this industry to be able to transform itself. And I think, again, this is the reason that it did not it resisted change. And
Mhm.
this is also going to be the reason that it has to be looked at, like in some totality of the things that are associated with the industry.
Thanks, Sumit. So let me ask you a question. So when you look at the traditional model, right, and maybe you can recap a little bit about what that traditional model has been like for so many years, right? And then how do you see that transition to the, you know, for staffing agencies, servicing model? How do you think that change is going to take place?
Yeah, I think what has been happening so far, that businesses, they have been comfortably picking up a phone and say, hey, I need
Mhm.
people,
Mhm.
or maybe sending an email.
Right.
And then staffing agencies will then, or staffing firms will then find people and then do that labor intensive work of finding people, recruiting, because these people, they're all moving targets, in the sense that they get a job, they get a dollar more or a shorter commute, they'll turn over, they'll take another job. So I think because of that reason, staffing industry businesses or clients, they have been finding it extremely convenient to do that. But then it comes at a cost, which is paying high markup cost. So if you blend in the regulatory cost, if you talk about markups like 40, 45, 50%,
Mhm.
or maybe if high volume 35, 40% kind of markups that we have seen, so that is significant cost for any company. Now with with changing times, with the evolution of technology, now businesses have started to explore, how can I save cost at the same time meet my business goals and objectives? So I
Right.
think, to your question, that conventionally it has been pure play convenience, and the technology and the infrastructure was not there. But
Right.
now that infrastructure is there, technology is there, it's just about using it to be able to get that benefit of
Mhm.
cost savings, which is going to be a hard dollar save that a business will make. And then over time it becomes the new normal, in which, okay, I've started to save costs by slightly tweaking my process or how I hire and engage people, and then at the same time making use of different forms of automation. So I think these are the two contrasting things that we are going to see in the future. And again, there's a lot of inertia, Eddie, in this industry.
Right.
My research is, and that inertia, to my earlier point, is related to the fact that there are a lot of moving parts here. So it is about how those moving parts can come together, and then how can it create a cohesive
Mm.
future of work, methodology, or a system that can really help to everybody's benefit.
Right. You touch on a very important point, which is the cost savings. I get that. Now, the other portion of that is finding those efficiencies, right, with the new models. But with one caveat, how do you make that transition for the, let's say, the baby boomers and the older generations in to adopt this new version, this new model, right? When we talk about the user experience and all that good stuff. So cost efficiency, of course. What other efficiencies do you see, and how do you see the new generation, adjusting to those changes?
Right. I think, you hit the bullseye first, Eddie, by saying that cost efficiencies is
Hmm.
one of the key drivers
Right.
that businesses are looking to try it out. Now, if I tell you, if your quarterly hiring budget is, let's say, $1 million,
Right.
and you will save guaranteed $100,000 on your, quarterly spend, are you willing to make that change, even though it will not be 100% perfect, day one, week one, month one, but
Hmm.
then you are graduating yourself from that. I think the key business drivers, which is applicable to any business industry, like as a business, I want to save costs so that I can improve my profit margins, so
Right.
that I can do more with less. I think this is always going to be, the factor. And now I would say, the choice is there. Now the option is there. Previously, there was no option. And now the option is there that I have the option to save cost. Am I going to do that? Which is the first factor. And then talking about adoption, I would say, Eddie, talking about like mid market enterprise type, businesses,
Hmm.
where they have complex processes, and complex processes and a lot of rules and a lot of people. I think that's where, I see that there is going to be, a slow, kind of adoption of these kind of, systems and processes. But at the same time, these people who are the managers in these
Hmm.
companies, they are very comfortable using other technologies in their other parts of their lives. Talk about them on their, personal lives. They're using social media, they're using all forms of
Right.
modern technologies and all of that. I think, this gap is going to get filled over time. And talking specifically about Jombone in our case, where we are trying to connect, or not trying, but we have actually connected all components of the workforce solutions ecosystem into one single system. And I think
Hmm.
there are a lot of user experience design related research that has already been done in the space, which is going to lay the foundation of how it can be built in such a way that it has minimum kind of, learning curve. So gone are the days, Ari, to be honest, gone are the days when enterprise applications used to look ugly.
Right.
Okay, they do the job, okay, you click here and do this and do that, does the job, but then what about user experience? So that's where modern day technologies relying on modern user experience design methods are going to come to the rescue. And to your point, like summing it up is like people are ready. They're doing it in their other domains and spheres of
Right.
life. It's just that it's going to be brought here, which is then going to be further evaluated by users to be able to add them. And we know change management, change is always tough, but then once you start to see the results and the
Right.
benefits that it brings, that's going to motivate you.
Right.
So
Yeah, well, you touch on user experience, and I think that's great. How things will become natural for that new generation to adopt, right? Um, so I think with that comes with the having the access to all the analytics, all the information at your fingertips, right? So that will be one component. So the next component is like, what about integration of this new technology with everything that they use so far? I don't know, ERP systems and all that good stuff. How do you connect those dots?
yeah, I think, first thing is like, first thing first, you are looking for a primary driver, which is convenience, ease
Mm-hmm.
of use, and cost savings.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you're going to get that day one, let's say, for example. But then the data that you collect, because you have digitally transformed the end to end process where everything is connected. So, by having all that data, coming together and giving you the analytics that you need to be able to make, you know I would not say a reactive decision making, but proactive decision making in your day to day, is really going to further complement the other benefits that digital transformation is going to present. Like, for example, let's say you are a director of operations of a company, and you click a button and you say, how much did I spend last quarter? How much did I spend last week? What were my budgets? How am I forecasted to spend in the next week and quarter? Am I going to burn cash too much? Whether it's going to give me the output that I need, which is around operational reporting. And then who are the best people and how can I maximize my budgets to be able to service my customers. So I think all that information readily available to decision makers to make those decisions is part of analytics, which is only possible to be provided if everything is integrated and talking to each other, which takes me back to my earlier point that I made. The current workforce solutions ecosystem is fragmented. You have applicant tracking systems, you have almost nothing in workforce management space, maybe an extension of ATS systems or maybe CRMs. And then you have outsourced, data to payroll. And then, you don't know how those components are, getting together. You are calculating turnover rates by manually inputting some data in your spreadsheet.
Time tracking.
All that. Right. So that's
Right.
that's so inconvenient. So I think if everything is on one single unified place, it gives you that additional power to be able to get those analytics very quickly. So I think that's where it is going to like play another dimension to this whole workforce transformation, because we're talking about the transformation from a business user standpoint, which
Mhm.
is okay, I need to hire people, I have budgets, and I have multiple locations, and how do I hire and how do I manage? And then on the workers side, also they also want to be engaged seamlessly. How can you effectively communicate to me as a worker? How can you tell me, am I getting my pay 1 week after or 2 week after,
Mhm.
which is kind of the standard? I want my pay like immediately made at the end of my work week. Like, I
Yeah.
approve my timesheets, can I get my pay? I think all those elements are going to or should come together to be able to bring that advantage of analytics that are needed by business users.
Right. Great. So user experience, talking about empowering end users to see information, analytics, and act based on that. That's great because it works for both sides. It works for our customers as well as for candidates, right? So now moving on to the next topic, that the next question that we wanted to talk to you about. You mentioned gig workers, right? That comes with all these changes. So how do you envision that future work?
I think see my envision on that is
Mhm.
the future as it relates to hiring and staffing. There has to be a way to be able to eliminate the overheads that are associated with different components. Like, how can you eliminate overheads as it relates to recruitment, which is first area. Can it be outsourced, not outsourced, I mean, can it be given to a gig worker where you're only sourcing candidates? Okay, great. How can you help me hire and recruit people within my communities? I think there's a massive amount of opportunities which are out there in terms of how do you eliminate overheads and then pass on those overheads related costs to in our case, we have this concept of community recruiters where they are helping clients in their respective communities. So I think it's going to be how do I say, a combination of a gig worker, which is helping businesses hire, recruit, and manage people.
Mhm.
And on the other side, workers which are T4, W2 people, they are getting paychecks because they are visiting places, either working as temporary to permanent, or permanent workers, and then the businesses themselves. So I think it's going to cut across all components.
Right. Great. Now, and what would you say are some of those key factors that are helping to shape that future of the industry?
I think Eddie, that's a very like loaded question, even though very simply said.
Right.
What's the future of work? I think it needs to be divided into multiple components.
Hmm.
As I initially was mentioning that one of the key components of human capital management is workforce acquisition. And when I say workforce acquisition, it means what is done for recruitment, what is done for discovery, verification. Like, do you know what are things that comes into the workforce acquisition space? I think the future of work in that space is that people are, going to become much more mobile savvy.
Mhm.
There are going to be a very easy way for people to be able to, get hired by using mobile, by using network effects, which are created by people within certain communities. And then technology will simply become kind of an enabler for businesses to be able to recruit people. And so that's on the recruitment side. There are a lot of advancements, that are happening currently, in the world of AI. How can I, let's say, quickly analyze data or parse data so that, it can be looked at very well by recruiters? And I always say that, a software is only as good as the data, right? So, what will AI do, what will data science do, if the underlying data structure, is not supportive of that? I think the transformation, the future of work, first has to lie from how that core data set can talk to each other seamlessly, and how it can be streamlined is where kind of the first future of work that I see. And then also from a workforce management standpoint, like, how do you manage workforce by building in compliance and or the other regulations that are impacting? For example, I need to manage the workforce that I just recruited and decided to hire. How can I, use, an integrated software piece to be able to stay 100% compliant to regulatory requirements? There are health and safety related aspects. There are specific aspects to certain specific industries. Then how do I ensure and sign off that it happens? The concept of training, managing people, creating their schedules, all that piece needs to happen in a very simple manner, because it also needs participation from multiple different users of that process. And I think that's where it is going to change. It is no longer going to rely on, doing training sessions, which are, how to say, training sessions which are, not required or not fully compliant, which is training instead becomes a cost. Rather, it becomes like a minimum cost where people are using technology to, get well versed with technology and all of that. And then how can I ask the system to prepare rosters? How can I ask the system to prepare schedule for all the people that I have in my shift? Then how can I, predict what is going to be the best shift? And then, am I paying them right? Because even though certain companies are sensitive to, pay rates, but then uh, getting real time market intelligence, giving you the power to be able to,
Right.
manage all that, I think all those insights, are going to help businesses make decisions so that their business outcome is successful, which is kind of the second dimension. And the third dimension of the system is like, how do I, quickly pay people almost at the end of their work shift? I'm talking about payroll money. I'm not talking about, a gig worker money. Like,
Right.
I'm talking about how can I process that payroll on a click of a button, and how it can reach the candidate almost instantly, so that the candidate is really motivated to be able to, come back to work. And also, how can I deliver whatever documents or whatever pay stubs and all those things that a particular candidate needs? Like, how can I deliver all of that? I will see, even though we are talking about very basic things,
Mhm.
which is the basic necessity, which needs to be automated first before we talk about, new forms of transformation like AI and all that stuff. I think I see that the future of work in hiring and staffing industry, it's going to be much more tightly integrated, as an end-to-end process, in which it's going to be extremely convenient for people to find work and come to work. And I come to work and I know it's going to get approved, I'm going to get my money in my bank. It's going to be like very simple and convenient. I think that's
Right.
where it's going to get, and technology is going to enable it. And once, as an industry, we reach this stage, which I'm talking about, which
Mhm.
is not very far away from now,
Mhm.
then there will be talks about how you can further use technology, like the next level. People talk about chat GPT,
Right.
natural language
Right.
models which are integrated into
Mhm.
stuff. But I feel that, okay, everybody knows you could write a resume using chat GPT. Everybody knows you could write a response to an email, but then does it solve that business problem on both sides of the marketplace? Is it making it cost effective? Yes. Convenience, yes. But is it making it cost effective? Maybe no. And I think that's where it's going to change. I think that's the future. And I'm going to say, business, the candidates, the candidates community, they're changing. We're
Right.
talking about people who were born in the 90s now entering into the mainstream. People call them Gen Zs or whatever. I
Mhm.
think those people, they think differently. They started with a tablet and a phone in hand, you know,
Right.
and so I think those people, their thought process, their decision making is entirely different. The way they look at opportunities, they live in the world of trust. We call it trust economy, instant gratification. I think those things are also very important, for the industry to consider, because this landscape is changing very fast. And I think that's where the future of work is. Like, we need, as an industry, to be able to embrace all those things, forget about the antiquated nature that we
Mhm.
were talking about. Like, we need to be ready to be able to meet the evolving needs of different users of the hiring and staffing industry. And I think that's going to be very important.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Tommy. We got about 3 more minutes to go. So, my conclusion of our conversation: new model, empowerment, flexibility, access, speed, efficiencies, right? So, you can sum all that up in one word: disruptive.
Yeah, you call it disrupted, or you may call it transformative. The term I would use,
Absolutely.
transformation, because we need transformation first before we talk about disruption. And I think transformation is the word. As you can see in my bag, it says revolutionizing staffing. So it's
Great
like
stuff.
yeah, revolutionizing types.
Thank you, Summit. Very informative. We got about 2 minutes, and I wanted to open the floor to see if any of the attendants wanted to have maybe any comments or any questions that anyone might have. Please, by all
Yeah,
means.
we've reached a few questions. Maybe you can read the top question, Eddie, just to be on the time.
Okay. So basically, the role of technology in the current and future state of the staffing industry.
Yeah, I think that's a very basic question. Probably somebody asked long several minutes ago, but I think
Yeah.
the role of technology is going to be how you can make it easy and convenient. And I think that's what everybody will, kind of look forward to. And I think just another question
Ajay,
I
we have
got:
a
how
question
will
from
AI
Ajay.
affect staffing?
Thank you, Ajay.
Yeah, yeah. So AI, how will AI affect staffing? I
Mhm.
think I think AI is all about data science. I always say, and data science needs data. And and how do you make sure that you have the full comprehensive data set that you can make use of, in terms of getting the right actionable intelligence out of that? And then think about areas where AI can be applicable. Like, if you talk about these days, a lot of AI buzz around natural language model integrations, writing resumes, and all that stuff that's currently happening. I think that's one avenue where AI can be supportive. And also there are other avenues also, which is how you can utilize data to be able to predict future, and that too based on what is going to be my cost, and what is going to be the best schedule. And I think there's a lot of business use cases that should come out of the use of AI. And I think it will be important to keep businesses who are at the epicenter of this industry, because they are paying customers. It needs to solve their problem first before it gets into the other world. So I think that's how I would answer this question. And looking at the time, so it's I think it's top of the hour.
Yeah.
And if you have any questions, guys, so please feel free to send us email, sales@jombone.com, or sumit@jombone.com, and we'll be able to answer any other question that you have.
Sumit,
So
thank you so much. Great insight. Appreciate your thoughts on that. And thanks everyone for attending. Until the next time. Thank you.
absolutely. Thank you. Bye bye.